Melissa Henson returns to the Warriors. She is going to fill us in today about what we should be keeping an eye on as the kids are done with school or about to be done for the summer break. Children will have much more time on their hands, and Melissa is determined to raise awareness about keeping everyone safe. June is Internet Safety Month, and Parents Television and Media Council Vice President Melissa Henson joins us once again to discuss internet harms and how parents can best protect their children. The website, and all of you should know this by now, committed to memory, parentstv.org, and headlines. You have to go there. It's kind of one-stop shopping. Headlines you need to know about, a great blog with information to keep you up to date, take actions. It is the all-around best resource that we at the Warriors recommend to you for busy parents out there. And we know all of you are overwhelmed and busy. So parentstv.org is the place to be. Welcome, Melissa Henson, back to the Warriors.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's always a treat to be with you, Lynn.
Well, I just love it because you're a mom and I'm a mom, but my kids are in their 30s. So luckily, I kind of missed this whole thing just by a couple of years, which I can't imagine if my kids were younger today. I don't know what I'd be doing, Melissa. I would have to be working on this full time. I guess it's so much to keep up with. So as I mentioned, June is Internet Safety Month. First, I want to ask you a couple of definitions so our warriors out there have a clear understanding when we're talking about things. Describe what is an algorithm, because we talk a lot about dangerous algorithms. And I was just reminded yesterday, somebody said to me, I don't know what an algorithm is. So let's start with, what's an algorithm?
Yeah, so an algorithm is basically a computer model that tracks your data, every mouse click, whatever posts you linger on. If you spend a lot of time looking at a particular type of posts or content from a particular source, the computer records that data and says, this is content this user engages with. If we want to keep them on the computer longer, if we want to keep them on social media longer, we're going to start feeding this user more of exactly this kind of content. So basically, these algorithms are designed to maximize the amount of time each user is spending on social media so that they can maximize their ad revenue from that user.
Simply put, they want to make a lot of money off of everybody. I want everybody to understand that, because that is really a question I get almost every single day. Why is this happening? Do parents, do people ask you that, Melissa? Like, why does any of this happen? Because they ask me every day.
No, I think for the most part, at least the parents that I talk to, they understand the profit motive behind the way social media companies work. But I do sometimes hear parents say, why all of a sudden am I getting a lot of X kind of content? And I have to say to them, well, you're getting a lot of X kind of content because you or somebody in your house is engaging with exactly that content. And the computer is recording that information, and it's saying, give this user more of this because this is what's going to keep them online.
Eyeballs. Now let's go into, we also talk a lot about the addiction, and there are plenty of studies to prove that that is the truth. Internet addictions, kids swiping, adults too, but we're talking about the kids right now, children swiping constantly, an addiction. Give us a little bit about that, the addictions from the internet.
Yeah. So, and this came out actually, I think, during a congressional hearing or a Senate hearing a few years ago, where they had a whistleblower from Facebook who said that they basically use the same model as gambling casinos in order to keep people hooked on and addicted to social media. So what it is every time somebody comments on something that you've posted, or every time somebody likes a post, you get a little ding. And with that little ding is a dopamine hit. And it keeps you coming back. It keeps you checking your social media posts. Every time you get a notification on your phone that somebody's engaging with your content, that's a little dopamine trigger in your brain that keeps you going back and going back and going back to those social media sites.
Let me ask you. So I don't know. I think it was yesterday. I'm not sure. 2 days ago on my Twitter, now X, I got some kind of announcement like, we're not showing you the likes anymore. Or you can see them as the owner, I think is the story, but other people can't see. I thought, okay, I digress here a little bit, Melissa, but stay with me on this one. But my first thought was, well, okay, if you can do even something like that, you can't take
Mhm.
down, other harmful content.
Yeah.
You're not putting the eyes on that. So I just share that they do have, in my opinion, capabilities to mm,
Yeah.
take a little more action to, for everybody to be safe. What do you think about? I wanted to ask you this last time, and I don't think I did. Do you like any of those? Answer how you see fit. Any of those companies that have iPhones that don't have internet? There's different ones like Gab.
Mhm.
There's an app like Bark. Do you
Mhm.
like anything like that, or do you think it needs to come, within the home, just the teachings of being safe and taking action?
Yeah.
I don't know if I asked
Well,
that the right way, but I think you know what I mean.
both and. Um, I can understand, when I was in high school, my mom would send me to school every day with a quarter in
Me
case
too.
I was delayed and I wasn't able to catch the bus home and I had to call for a ride. I had a quarter so I could use the payphone that was there in the lobby of the school. I don't think schools have payphones anymore. So I think I can understand and appreciate where a lot of parents are coming from in this day and age. They feel like they need to have a way to get in touch with their kids. You don't have payphones on every corner in every shopping center like they did back in the 80s and 90s. It's a different world. So the ability to get in touch with your kids is important, and I can understand that. I do think it's prudent, though, to delay as long as possible getting your kids a smartphone. There are other options out there. There are still the old-fashioned flip phones. That's what my dad uses. He has
I
no
love
interest
those.
in learning how to use a smartphone, so he has an old-fashioned flip phone. So that's a great alternative if you feel like you have to get your kid a phone. Um, if, they feel like those flip phones are old-fashioned and clunky, I know Bark has its own version of a smartphone. I haven't taken it for a test drive. I don't know, if it's 100% reliable. It does seem to be a good product. I know I'm familiar with the Bark service. We use it for, home internet filtering. So I'm somewhat familiar with the service that they provide. Um, but I would also say that most kids are more technologically savvy than us adults. And so no matter how strong the parental controls are, no matter how strict the filters are that you put in place, there are a lot of kids that are able to figure out a way to work around those. So I would say the best bet is to choose something that there's no possible way to work around. So an old-fashioned flip phone or even some of these smartwatches. When my son was 11 or 12 years old and he was going away to summer camp, we got him it's called a Gizmo watch.
Mhm.
And he can't contact anybody that isn't on a list of 5 or 6 pre-approved names. We put those numbers. You can call grandma, you can call grandpa, you can call mom's cell phone, you can call dad's cell phone, you can call your aunt, your uncle. And that's it. He can't communicate with anybody outside of that pre-approved contact list. So that's another good option. Unfortunately, those Gizmo watches are kind of, they look like children's toys. So, it might not be something your high schooler would be interested in, but there are options out there.
Yeah, I like that. As you were talking, I was thinking back. My kids, they had phones, and it was really relatively new. We're talking like I don't know, 94, 95. But Melissa, they were like these little plastic things. They looked like they came free in the in the
Yeah.
cereal box. It came
Right.
like free with my service, like for $1. You could, but they only were able to call me. There was
Yeah.
no anything on these little plastic. They were flip phones, actually, little
Yeah.
plastic
Yeah.
toy looking things.
Yeah.
I was happy with that. We didn't know in those days anything. We didn't know about all those this kind of thing in those days. We couldn't even think of it. Let me ask you your feeling. Do you have any updates on the Kids Online Safety Act for us? Because we're pushing very hard across the country to get
Yeah.
this done with this 118th Congress. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
fishing around yesterday and today. I am a constituent of Senator Chuck Schumer, House Majority Leader. What is he waiting for? Do we have any updates?
Yeah, no, I mean, as latest I heard, they had over 70 co-sponsors.
Yes.
They have more than enough support to get that bill passed in the Senate. I don't know why the holdup on getting it to the floor for a vote, but I think this is a good reason to call your senators and say, look, we need to get this bill to the floor. We need a vote on it. The companion bill has in the House is passed out of committee, so that should be ready to go to the floor for a vote too. We just need to keep the pressure up on our lawmakers to make sure that they vote on it this legislative session. Otherwise, we have to start from scratch again next year, next January.
Don't even say that, Melissa.
Not good.
Because there has been I
Sorry
no,
about that.
don't hold me to this one, but I think just the other day, 8 more bipartisan signed on. So I think it could be close to 80. Don't hold me to that,
Yeah.
but I think I saw that in the middle of the night somewhere that 8 new of our elected officials. And if this and all the promotion and everybody coming together, right, left, everybody in the middle for this one issue, if this can't be done, I don't want to say give up. We don't say that on the Warriors, but come on now. Seems
Yeah.
like a no-brainer that has to happen. So we're going to keep on top of it. I of course am fishing around, but it's going to be house.gov, everybody, senate.gov. Find out who represents you. We'll have information in the body of this video. So some sample, emails, phone numbers, things you have to be on it. We need everybody to step up to the plate, keep the pressure up, even though school's over. Don't let anything slip under the radar. We got to keep going all summer long with all of this. Now, let me ask you something. You have created at the Parents Television and Media Council a resource center. Explain to us a little bit about that, what's on it, and how easy it is for everybody to just go there and read the information and take action.
Yeah. So, what we are trying to do is provide sort of like one-stop shopping for people that are interested in just being really well informed about what the challenges are, what the best practices are when it comes to kids and media and kids and technology. So, for example, one thing that we are providing is links to a number of external studies and reports, a lot of academic papers, reports from like the CDC or other government agencies that outline what the risks are for kids on social media, what what are the effects of exposure to sexual content on television, what are the effects of exposure to violent content in the media, what's the consequence of letting your toddlers be on screens for long periods of time. So we're trying to be sort of a clearinghouse for this kind of information, and we've made it searchable so you can sort of narrow down the particular topic that you're interested in looking at more closely, and then we provide links to the full report along with a short synopsis. But we also have other resources there for parents, tools, tips, best practices, as I mentioned earlier, how to keep your kids occupied so that they're not on the computer during summer vacation. We have a cyber safety contract that you can get your kids to sign.
Yes.
So we're just trying to provide as many tools and resources as we can to be helpful to parents, to keep them informed, educated, empowered. So when their kids come to them and say, "But Mom, I need to have a smartphone. All the kids in my class have a smartphone," the parents are equipped to be able to have those conversations with their children.
That's always, we have to anticipate. Something I try to teach a lot or mention is always anticipate. For instance, what you just said, if your teen comes to you, well, everybody has a everybody has the iPhone. Everybody have those answers like ready to go so you're not caught off guard or lose your cool, as we like to say, and just be prepared. Because we want the kids to come to us if we start yelling, if we start getting flustered, if we start saying we don't have time. Like, they're never going to come to us about anything, and it is so imperative. I think you'll agree with me, in 2024 we have to bring the kids to come to us, to open up. We have all that sextortion going on. We have it's okay to say, age appropriate. We have bad people online. We have a lot of great people, but there are bad people looking to take advantage. So I think that conversation has been opening up much more from a year ago and has to continue. Would you agree with all this? And what would you like to add to that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of famous quotes along the lines of, you're more likely to catch an illness from a sick person than catch health from a healthy person, or bad company corrupts good morals. There are good people online, but the reality is your kids are much more likely to be exposed to bad stuff than they are to be exposed to something that's going to be empowering, uplifting. Even people that are very deliberate in their media choices, it's unavoidable because there are so many bad actors out there. I mean, I follow pages that are about, drinking tea, for example, and somebody's going to get on there and start posting pornographic images. I mean, there are just so many bad actors out there, and it is almost impossible to avoid. So you just really need to be armed and prepared, and you need to stand firm, frankly, when it comes to pushing back on whatever kind of social pressures your kids might be feeling. And one note of encouragement, by the way, is I was reading in a forum, for parents that deal with technology and have these have questions about how to handle technology in their home. And one mother posted, for those of you who say, their child is going to be a social outcast if they don't have a smartphone, if they're not on social media. She said her son just was voted most likely to succeed. He was voted most popular. He, every accolade you can imagine, graduated top of his class. He did not have social media. He did not have a smartphone through high school. So it's absolutely not true that it's going to be the death of your child's social life if they don't have social media.
I love that story. That should be part of every like mainstream news cast, cable, online, as an example. No, that should be like at the
Absolutely.
forefront.
Yeah.
And I'm a great believer in, call me a little bit of a dreamer. If we made it cool, like delay is the way, or just, there's power in numbers. Like, I really think it could be achieved where people would put off buying or falling into the pressure if their child says, well, little Susie has one and Mikey has one and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying, it is New York City. I'm encouraged though, to do that, because we do have a group out of Brooklyn, and they just meet. I may have mentioned this to you once before. They meet every Sunday at 2:00 in a park. So, because they have no way to, they don't have telephones or anything like that. That's just their thing, staying offline as much as possible. And they're teenagers. They're 14 to 17. So and the group is growing. I think that's very encouraging. And kids are even returning to a lot of flip phones.
Yeah.
That's encouraging. So I think that's a good thing for parents to know. You have a flip phone. That's fine. June is Internet Safety Month. What can you fill us in about the entertainment landscape at all? Is it this? I'm afraid to even go there, but with streaming, what do you know?
Yeah.
Anything on the pike? Parents, caretakers should stay away from anything good on the pike. What's happening there?
Well, I think it's important to understand the way the marketplace is changing with streaming media. When these streaming services first came online, it was very much sort of an a la carte sort of system where you could pick and choose what you wanted. It was breaking up these cable monopolies where you had one company like Paramount that owned a dozen different cable channels, and you had to get them all bundled together. So that was sort of broken up in the early days of streaming. And what we're seeing now is the rebundling of these channels. And so, for example, Disney recently announced that they're going to be bundling with HBO Max. Now, to me, this is like putting the Playboy Mansion inside the gates of Disneyland. I mean, I can't imagine two brands that are more different in terms, well, in terms of what their origin was and the markets that they were designed to appeal to. In the early days, Disney was exclusively family-friendly entertainment. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of mission drift with Disney in recent years, and they're no longer as family-friendly as they used to be, but they still sort of promote themselves as that niche for families where you can go for safe, reliable, family-friendly content. And then on the other side, you have HBO, which brought us, what was it? The House of Dragons? Game of Thrones. That's what I was trying to think of.
Game of
Game of
Thrones. That went
Thrones.
on for years. Game of Thrones, that show. Yeah.
Right. One of the producers basically was on, I think he was quoted in Time magazine saying, I'm here to represent the perverts in the audience. I'm here to make sure there's a certain amount of female nudity in every episode. So for Disney to be partnering with a company that explicitly stated as their mission to make sure there's enough female nudity to satisfy the perverts in the audience. I mean, that's shocking to me.
Melissa, I think we have to just accept, and there has to be a press release from somebody. Disney is just not Disney anymore. We have to think of it, as Disney. I don't know, triple X. I'm just saying that, like something totally different from, when my kids were little, running every Friday when the new movie was breaking, something from Disney, just to see that. Though I think those days are just over. Tell us about, so right now in the summertime, a couple of different things parents should be on the lookout for because we know the kids will, as I mentioned, have more time in their hands, and they're going to be online no matter what we say.
Yeah.
Again, there's parental autonomy. We can't tell people, ban it, stop it, it's here. We live in a digital world. What should be a couple of things the parents should be looking for?
Well, my blanket advice, and this is all year round, is you need to minimize the number of internet connected devices in the home. And whatever internet connected devices you have, they need to be used exclusively in public areas of the house. So no phones in the bathrooms, no phones in the bedrooms. If you're going to be on a phone, you're going to be in the living room, you're going to be in the kitchen, you're going to be somewhere where mom and dad can, you know, peek in every once in a while, take a look at your screen, see what you're doing. Phones need to be turned in at night. Keep the chargers in mom's and dad's room, and all the phones are charged in mom's and dad's room overnight. Beyond that, the book that came out a couple months ago, The Anxious Generation by
Mhm.
Jonathan Haidt, he has some really great advice in there, and great insights, I think, as to what we risk losing, I should say, when we raise kids who are overprotected in the real world and underprotected online. And the point he makes there is, what kids are doing online, in some ways, they're being exposed to way too much adult content way too soon. And they are not mentally or emotionally mature enough to handle all of this adult content that's being thrown at them online. And but at the same time, it's also infantilizing them because they're not learning how to interact with real human beings. They're not learning how to negotiate. They're not learning how to resolve conflict. They're not learning how to, use their imagination, creativity, and so forth. And they're being deprived of this in the real world because they're overprotected in the real world. So I would say, for every parent out there, you should really set a goal of making sure that your child has opportunities for unsupervised and I would say unorganized, some activity, time to, be on the playground or in the backyard exploring or playing in the park, playing in the woods. But unstructured is what I was looking for. Unstructured playtime so that they can develop these real world skills that a lot of kids today are just lacking.
I just thought of this, Melissa. I don't know when it was. Could have been 20 years ago. I saw this documentary with my husband, and it was babies. I think it was called Babies from different countries. So there was like this American baby, like with those super parents giving this baby everything you could possibly give the baby. And then there was like a baby in Africa with just like a rock to play with.
Mhm.
And then after the whole thing, there were a bunch of babies. What happened at the end? The baby who had nothing tested like the happiest, the most
Mhm.
positive, who had like a rock and had a cow stepping like around the baby. Like, and it reminds me of kids used to like to play in boxes. Like if we
Yeah.
had something delivered, furniture or something, you'd play
Yeah.
in the brown box in the backyard until it collapsed, and then the parents would throw it away. But I think it's, here at the Warriors, we are launching a lot of programs. We want to get kids and families back into music,
Mhm.
art, all of that type, even engineering for the older kids so their minds can expand
Yeah.
and be creative so they don't say they're bored. And we do have the studies that show getting them involved in arts expands all other areas from math and even writing, because teachers report to us across the country the kids can't even hold pencils. They're so
Right.
used to holding devices or on the Chromebooks or laptops, their little fingers aren't even, and we're talking high school.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so that is, I feel good. I'm feeling like there's hope out there. Okay, finish us up. What would you like us to know in this month of June? We're halfway through it. June is Internet Safety Month, although both of us agree all year long has to be Internet Safety Month. Finish us up. What do you want us to know going into this wonderful 100-degree weather that's coming our way in the next few days?
Yeah, so I would just say we do have in the tools and tips section of our website, we do have some guidance and some strategies for parents dealing with screens and how to model good screen behavior for your kids during these summer months and limit their time on screens. Some parents have checklists. Before you ask for screen time, have you cleaned your room and made your bed? Have you looked for um, have you done something creative? Have you read a book for 30 minutes? So you can come up with a checklist, something like that, that your kids have to check off every box before they're allowed to be on screens. I think that's a great strategy. Or some parents might say you have to read for an hour for 20 minutes of screen time. Anything like that you can do to help limit your kids' time and keep them occupied, keep them from asking for screen time is the most important thing. Send them outside, get them engaged in some creative pursuit. And most importantly, let's call those Capitol Hill switchboards and get them moving on COSA. We really need to get this done this year.
Melissa, does that list include scrubbing out the bathtub, walking the dog?
It absolutely does.
Things of that nature, because I think
absolutely.
we got to get the kids involved a little bit more in our family partnerships, and
right.
I admit I was at fault. I was always trying to do everything when my kids were little, so like they could do whatever they were doing. I like your idea about we're also promoting here at the Warriors, not even reading online, a book, a hardcover book, so kids can turn the pages and feel this sense of accomplishment when they get to the end, and then sitting down and having a family, during the week, kind of a family circle, even over the dinner table, of talking about the book. However, that requires the adult to skim through the book or read it. So we have to get everybody on board for all of that. Well, yeah. Melissa Henson, you never disappoint. ParentsTV.org. Some excellent further reading. You've got 8 steps to protect your children from inappropriate entertainment. Let's focus on the harm social media is having on our children. Children deserve and need a screen-free childhood. All available, Warriors. ParentsTV.org. Thank you, Melissa. Wishing you and your family a wonderful summer. We'll talk. If you're around, we'll talk again soon, because there's a lot of issues and we have to keep pushing forth on Kids Online Safety Act. Thank you. Thank you for joining me once again. Thank you for all you do, and let us speak again.
Thanks, Lynn.